What is up everybody, my name is Tyler Potts and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be creating our first simple landing page in just HTML CSS. As you can see, it's a really basic web page. It's a little product landing page. I've stole this off the internet, this image, off a car, and then I've created a little landing page called the E-Trident. If you want to see more advanced stuff, I suggest you check out my JavaScript animations, my CSS animation stuff and all that, because we do a lot more in there. So if I refresh the page, as you'll see, stuff fades in and then we can continue on with the page. So without further ado, let's crack on with the code. So let's open up a terminal. You don't have to, you can do this any way you want. I'm just going to open up, I'm going to cd into my projects folder, my 100 days of code. I'm going to then create a new directory called day 70 of 100 code, and I'm going to call this landing page or responsive site. We're going to call it responsive site. We're going to cd into that directory. Wait, is that day 70? Oh, I think day 70 already exists. Oh, I meant day 71. It's day 71. We'll just go quickly, we'll crack on with this called day 70 for now and we'll fix it later. And then in here, I'm going to create another directory called website, just so I can keep my file structures nice and clean. Let's move into website, and I'm going to open up a terminal, or I'm going to open up a window here, go to projects, 100 days of code, day 70, although it's the wrong one, it's fine. Open up this, and then I'm going to drag in from my other page. Let me just grab the assets. I'm going to drag in a image into a folder in here in assets, images. Wait, what am I doing? I don't need enough folder after that. Oh god, we don't want to go too deep. And it's just going to be called product cart. So we've got the image of the cart. Again, this will all be available on the GitHub link, which will be in the description of this video. So now we're in there. Let's check. Yep. So now let's do, I'm going to open up in my text editor, and then I'm going to run something called live server. You could just double click the HTML file to open, or you can type into your terminal, if you have Node.js installed, npm i-g live server to install that command I just did there. So now our website should be running, and we also have this little thingamabobby. So let's move over here. This should be broken. Yep, oh no, that's correct. Yes, so there's nothing in there. It's not showing anything because we haven't got an index.html file. So let's create that. So with any HTML website, you want to create an index.html, and we're going to use, just so you know, I just did exclamation mark tab, and that has created this whole boilerplate. Emmet does that for you. It's a plugin built into VS Code. You can also get it for Atom, Sublime, and I believe pretty much any other text editor which has any sort of plugin support or extension support. We're going to name this responsive website for now, and we're going to give this a we won't link it just yet. So we're going to write a bit of markup before we start on anything else. So in the markup, we actually want to give it a page wrapper. This isn't necessary, we're not actually going to style this, but I like to do it to keep everything uniform and everything inside one container, which isn't the body. I'm going to create a header tag, so we're going to be using HTML5 markup tags, and this header tag basically represents a HTML header. We're then going to put inside this header a div with the class of header hyphen inner, because it's going to contain our content, and then we're going to say brand, a div called brand, and then we're going to have a h3, a heading tag free with brand title tab, and I'm going to do E-Trident. Now, let me explain what's just happened there, because that was a little fast. So, if you notice, I did .page wrapper, and that created this div with the class of page wrapper, and that is all built into Emmet. Again, if you don't know what Emmet is, I suggest you quickly have a quick Google, have a look. It's pretty awesome. It does quite a lot of things. Basically, you can use it to do full things. So you can say header tab, and it'll give you a header tag. You could say h3 tab, and there you go, you've got your tags. You can even do classes, so we can say class of brand tag, and you can also do that on Emmet, so we can say h3 dot class of header, and then let's say an ID of hello, and then we'll do 3 of those. There you go. And then you can add content in every single one, stuff like that, just so you know what's happening there. Again, it's kind of standard now. It comes with pretty much everything. Everything has Emmet. Even online editors have Emmet now, which is awesome. So anyway, let's crack on. So we've got the brand. We then want to have a nav with an anchor tag. There's going to be no href, but it's going to have a class of link or SPA link, which stands for single page application link. And we're going to say product. We're going to duplicate that and we're going to say buy now. So these are only two simple little pages. And I think that's done for the header. So let's break this up a little so we can read it a bit better. So we have our header, the main header element, the inner header, which we're going to use to cap the size of how wide the header elements can go. We're then going to have a brand, which is basically where you'd put your logo, your name. We're just going to have a title in here, which is going to say eTrider, which is like our brand. And then we're going to have our nav links here. Again, for this simple project, we don't actually need like a hamburger menu or anything, so we don't need to do anything fancy. Because it's only two links and I'm going to break those onto the line below. Although a hamburger menu is another option if you wanted to. Okay. Now we've done that, let's go and style this up. So first things first, we want to go get a font family, and I like this one. It's called Sarah. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. But let me show you how I got that. So let's go over to our. If we refresh the page, by the way, you'll see everything links in there. So let's go to Google.fonts or no Google Fonts. Just type that in on Google. And it will be the first link, as you can see there. And here is a repository of usable, free-to-use fonts. And I just searched in Sarah, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. And I just click this plus icon, I'll click down here, and as you can see here, it gives me a link, but we can customize it. So if I go to customize, I grabbed 300, 400, and black 900, because they're the only ones I will be using. So you then copy this and you paste this inside of your markup above the style sheet, which we're about to create. So we're going to say main.css, or we're actually going to put this in a directory called assets/css/main.css. And then we'll be able to use this font family inside of our CSS file to style up our assets. So let's create that file. So we're going to say css.main.css. You can use Sass or whatever you want if you prefer. I'm going to use CSS for this tutorial because I want to keep it begin friendly as possible. So the first things we want to do inside of our main.css is we want to set up some variables. Now in Sass you can set up variables such as going $, give the variable a name, and then assign the variable to, or it's like that, and that would be a red variable in Sass. Inside of CSS itself, they have now added some native support for it. The only issue is it's slightly more complex for just adding a $sign for your variable. In this, you've got to create a root file or a root element selector. Does that make sense? And then you need to say hyphen, so 2 hyphens stands for variable, and then you give it a name. So we're going to say primary, and I'm going to say 001E46, and that's going to be our navy blue. I'm then going to have a primary dark, which is going to be 001036, which is a darker variant of the above. And then I'm going to have a primary light, just where I go 004B87. I'm then going to say grey, and this grey is going to have 53565A, and then a dark, which is going to be a 171717, and then a light. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff here, and I'm going to say in this light DF, which is going to be our light, and I've messed that up a little. There we go. So that is what we're doing there. And if you're wondering why I'm creating variables, so what variables do is they allow you to create a piece of code and change it by just changing variables. So let's say we created this whole page and I wanted to change the color. I'd only have to ever change it in this one place instead of having to rewrite it out in 50 different places, which makes it a lot easier in the future. The next thing we want to do is add some resets. So what these resets are going to do is basically remove the margin and the padding of everything, and we're also going to set box sizing equal to border box. And if I ever give you one great tip, box sizing border box is my favorite tip, because it basically means your padding isn't going to break your structure, your border isn't going to break your structure, nothing will break your structure except margin. So it's really useful if you don't want to have to break structure and calculate everything by hand. So now let's get started. So we want to change the body and we want to give it a font family. So we imported our Sarah, I don't know how to pronounce it again, font, and we do sans serif. That is basically it. And then we're going to say background, and we're going to set this equal to, so now we're going to use the variable. So now to use where the variables above, we're going to say far, and then we're going to say hyphen light. Actually, we're going to create a white. I know this is very simple, and we could just do a white, but we're going to create a white anyway, just so we can use it. And that's going to be the body background. I know it's white by default, so actually that's really pointless. I don't know why I did that, just ignore me. Okay, so now let's go back to our page. Let's close this, and here you go. This is what we're seeing right now. So our font's imported and everything's looking good. Our background is white because it's by default white. And we have everything set up. So the next thing we need to do is we need to style the actual header component and the header inner. So let's use the selector called header to get this class, and we're going to give it a position of fixed. And what the position of fixed does is it basically fixes it to your screen. So if you start scrolling, if your page was scrollable and you started scrolling, it will always be there. It will be all in the position you choose. So we're going to set the position to 0. So it means it's dead at the top. We're going to set the left equal to 0, so it's all the way to the left. We're also going to set the right to 0, so it's all the way to the right. And then we'll give it a C index of 999. Okay, so let me explain this. So position fixed, again, basically fix it to your screen. And then these values here tell you where each position should be fixed. So the top of the fixed element should be at the top of the viewport. The left element should be left to the viewport, and right to the right of the viewport. So each edge is now going to be 0, 0, 0, except from bottom, which we haven't set. Bottom is also another one we can set, but we're not going to do bottom because we don't want it to span the whole height of the page, because we could put bottom 0. Okay, now what C index does, as you can read there, it basically specifies the stack level of the box, which says that, or basically where you can see it. So let's say you have two elements. We have this element, and let me create a new window, and we have this element. This is your first element, and let's say you actually don't want this element to be in front of this element. You would give this a C index height greater than this window. So we'd say, let's say you give this, if you gave this a C index of 1 or 2 and this a C index of 1, this would then be in front of this element, and that is how it works. If that wasn't clear, I'll show you how it works, hopefully soon once we've done this part. Let's add a box shadow of 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 0 pixels, RGBA. I don't know why I'm doing that, we don't need to do this, but we want to add a transition of box shadow, and we want to say 200 ms linear. So what transition does is it allows on events, or anything changing such as hover or any other event, or if you add a different class, it will allow you to transition between an element. So we're going to set the transition of box shadow to just under, we're actually going to give 250, so a quarter of a second. And setting the how it moves using the linear tag, which means it will move smoothly. You can also have ease in, which means it eases in to the animation, and in, out, and out, so you can see how it goes there. But we're going to just set linear. Once that's done, we can go back and you can see nothing has really changed. Again, if we set a height on the body to, let's say, height of 5,000 pixels, and we come back and we start scrolling, you can see on the right side our bar is scrolling, but the header is staying dead in place, and that is what position fix does. Cool. Let's go to carry on. So now in header, we're going to set header inner. We're going to set this to display flex, and what flex is a way of aligning elements inside of a content box. And we're going to say space between, which basically puts space in between the two elements, so it pushes both elements away from each other as far as they can go. We're going to say align items. So by the way, this is for the horizontal, and align items is vertically. We're going to stretch them to be the max height they can be to the header. We're then going to set padding of 0 pixels, 15 pixels, which is going to give it a little spacing on the right. So this stands for the top and bottom. So there's the y-axis and there's the x-axis, or horizontal and vertical. We're then going to set a height, and we're going to set this equal to one of our variables, which we're going to create, and we're going to call this header height, because we want to set this variable because we're going to be using this very often. Header height, and we're going to give it 60 pixels. I'm then going to say width 100%, because this is how we're making this responsive now, because this page wants to be responsive. We want it to always be 100% of the screen, but we also don't want it to go bigger than 1280 pixels. We're then going to set a margin of 0 auto to center the element on the page. So what 0 does is set margin of 0, so there's no spacing top or bottom, and what auto does is basically adds the exact amount of spacing on the left as there is on the right to put the element in the center of the box. And as you can see, this is what we get now. So display block has turned this into a row, so or two columns, which is one column here, and then the space between element on the justify content has pushed them to be on the opposite sides, which looks good. I like that. Let's keep going. So we then want to add a header with the brand title, so another element we created in here, and we're going to say brand title is equal to font size 24 pixels. We're going to set the color equal to a variable of primary, and the line height, and we're going to set this equal to the header height, because we want it to be to the header height. So there you go. So it basically sends the object inside of our thing. Now we actually want to quickly, we can't really see our header, so if you want to see where your header actually is, you can just add a quick background color, and I'm just going to give this a background color of a 004484. No, that's way too dark. We'll say F4FF. Yeah, there you go. Very ugly, but you can see the color now. So you can see it here. So this is the actual header box where the blue, or the baby blue, light blue is appearing, and these are the elements inside it. So we're going to leave the color on for a moment, just so we can see what we're doing. So now we've got brand title. We want to add a header nav, and we want to say display flex. So our nav here, we want to display flex it. We then want to say header nav.link and or spar link, and we want to say color is equal to the variable of primary. We want to say the line height is equal to the variable of header height, and the padding is equal to 0 and 15 pixels. We're then going to set the cursor of pointer, so each link, when we hover over it, has this little cursor on. Now, as you can see, there's a bit of spacing here now. There's a bit of padding around the edges. It's now centered in this header element, and that is perfectly how we want it. I want to quickly show you something. So earlier I said how we should use variables, and as you can see, this height of this header is here. Now, let's say we wanted to make it a bit smaller. We could set this to 40 pixels, and everything is going to shrink down to 40 pixels. But for example, if this was set at 60 pixels, all of these, so if I press Ctrl D, Ctrl D, Ctrl D, and I put these back to 60 pixels, I would have to then go back through and all of them and change them all manually to be 40 pixels. Let's say if I just change the header height instead, you're going to see it's going to break like this. So variables allow you to be consistent between every single thing you do, so you can change the height the whole way along. I'm going to put this back to 60 because I like the look of 60. It's a nice beefy header, and I'm also going to remove the background color because we're going to add a box shadow to this when we scroll, but for now I want it to look like it's embedded in the page. Alright, so now we've got the links done, and everything seems to be going pretty fine. I think the next section we need to do, or actually, you know what, we've got one more thing to do. We want to actually add a hover event onto these links. So we're going to say spar link, and we're going to add this pseudo element called hover. And what this just means, when you hover over the element, you want this to happen. And we're going to say background color, and we're going to say far light. So now if I hover over this link, you'll see they gain this light background color, which is really useful. So we can now know we're definitely hovering over which button we're hovering over. So down here we're going to go section, and we're going to set the each section so to wait I'm getting ahead of myself. I actually want to go in here and actually create those elements. So first things first, I want to create a main tag so all our content goes inside this main element. I then want to create a section dot product hyphen section with the ID of, actually it doesn't even need an ID, what am I on about? Just a product section. Now inside this section I want to create a div called product with the class of MB1, which is going to stand for margin bottom 1. We're going to create that in the CSS in a moment. Now inside the product we want to add an image, and the image I want to just say with the source, we're going to say /assets images product car. Now in here we're going to say trident car, just so if the image doesn't load it has something to fall back on. After we have done that product image, let's go have a look what it looks like. Actually it's huge. We then need to add in the content. Now in the content we want a h2 which says e-trident. We then want a h3 with the class of margin bottom 1, the same class we used up here because it's going to be a reusable class, and we're going to say the future is here, and this is going to be like the tagline for the car. We're going to say P, and we're going to say lorem 30, and in emit if you do this you get 30 words of lorem ipsum, which is really nice. Now let's have a look. So that is that. Let's add a button in as well, because we're going to need a button as a CTA. We're going to give it a button with a class of button. We're going to say button content, and then we're going to say text gradient. Then we're going to say by now, and that is going to be our button. Now you're probably wondering why I've added so many diffs inside of a button for this, and the reason is because we're going to give this a really fancy style to it. It's probably not the best looking style you can give to an element, but I want to show off how you could do it, and you guys probably put this into a much better way of using it. So you don't just have to use it for this, but I want to show you that how you can use it. So now we've got this next section. So we've got the product section. Let's break this away from each other. Let's make sure you can see each element. So we've got the product, we've then got the oh no, let's not do that. We've got this H2 with the content there, and we've got the button. And as you can see, that's the element. So let's go style it up quickly. So inside of our CSS, we want to, underneath header nav, we're going to say section. So the section is we're going to have multiple sections, and each one of them I want to have the position of sticky and the top of 0 pixels. Now, what sticky does is it acts like fixed, but only once you reach the position you set. So if you say position sticky 10 pixels, 100 pixels, once you get to 100 pixels off that element, it's going to stick. I can't demonstrate yet until we get another section. But basically, this is crucial to have how we want the scroll to be. Because I want the scroll to feel like when you scroll, the section, the upper section, scrolls on top of this section. So now we want to say height, and we're going to set the height equal to 100 vertical height, or fit viewport height, which means take up the full width of the viewport window. I then want to say background by default should just be white. It's just a reset. Actually, let's just get rid of it. Just no, we'll keep it. And then we'll say padding 80 pixels, so for top and bottom, and then 25 pixels on left and right. There we go. Now, underneath that, we're going to say dot product section, because in our HTML we have this product section. Oh, 2 hyphens, sorry. And we want to give it a width of 100%, a max, or no, a margin of 0 auto, which doesn't make sense because we have no max. We don't actually have a max width like I was going to do. We're going to say padding, and we're going to calc. So what calc does is it calculates 2 values. And we can do this by saying we want 80 pixels on the top plus the variable of header height. So we want it to be 80 pixels plus the header height. And the reason we're doing that is because we want the header height not to be included. Because when it's a fixed element, it sits on top of other elements. So all the elements get pushed up, and we don't want that. We want it to have some padding to push it back down. So that's where the header height comes from. And then the 80 pixels padding is where I just want to push it away from the header. So once you have done that, we also want to say, actually, after the calc, we want to say 25 pixels. After the calc, we want to say 25 pixels on the left and right, and then just a solid 80 on the bottom. I'm then going to say display flex, and I'm going to say flex flow equals to column. And what this does is allows your classes, instead of being on the left and right of each other, to be on the top and bottom. So if I was to remove this and just leave flex, you'll see they go left and right of each other. But if I had the class of column, they go top and bottom of each other. Hope that's clear. After flex flow, we're going to say align items, and we're just going to say center to move them to the center of the page. We're then going to give the background a linear gradient. And what a linear gradient is, what it says, it's a linear gradient from one color code to the next. And we'll say to bottom, which stands for go from the top to bottom. We're then going to give this the class of, or the variable of white and we're going to say white from 30%, and then we're going to give another variable of light, which we're going to say also starts at 30%. Now if we go back, you'll see there's this now gradient part where the car is sitting on top. Now if we, let's say, instead of doing 30, we say 0 and 100%, you'll see now instead of being a solid block colors, they're actually a gradient from one color code from the bottom here all the way to the top to the white. And we could do different things, so we could say from like 80 20, and as you can see the colors get a bit more intense, and then we could say stuff like 40 and 50. And as you can see, it's a bit more intense there. These colors aren't really good to show it, so I'm going to quickly change them out for a red and light. That'll do. So there you go. Now you can see how they work. So instead of, let's say, put that back to 0 and that at 100, you'll see it's more for spread. Then as we go down, so 50 and we'll say 50 and 0, you'll see it comes further in and the gradient doesn't spread as much. And then let's say 50-50, oh, not 55. 50-50, and you get these block solid colors, because basically you're saying the gradient, we want the top gradient to start fading from 50%, so right here, and we want the bottom one to start fading from 50%, which obviously causes this effect. And you know what, there's kind of a cool effect. If you change this to white, it would actually look pretty cool, but we're not going to do that. So let's undo everything I just did. We want 30% and 30%. Let's quickly add that in. 30% and 30%, so we get this effect. So it's 30 from 30% from the top, and this comes 30% to the top too. Now, they're done. So we actually want to go style the next bit, which is the content or product. Maybe we should do the product. We'll do the product first. So we're going to go into our class and we're going to say dot product section dot product. And in here, we're just going to set some boundaries. So we're going to say we want it to be 100%. So it's always 100%, but then we want to set a max width of 600 pixels. So if we go back, you can see the car has moved over to the right, and that's because the boundary is now 600 pixels. So it's starting here and finishing over here, which means the car has been pushed over to the right. But we want to go back in product section dot product, and then we want to target the image and set its width to 100%. And if we go back, as you can see, it's now the right size. It sits nicely in the center and it looks pretty good. Now let's do the same with the content. So we want to say product section dot content, and this one's a little bigger. Basically, we want to say flex 1, which means nothing actually. We want to say width 100%. We want to say max width 600 pixels. Oh, and then let's have a look. So there you go. Now it's sat in the center. We then want to say, we actually want to go from product. Wait, is it product? Oh, sorry, content. I was looking at the wrong section. Let's copy that, and we actually want a H2 element header tag, and we want to set the font size equal to 32 pixels, the color equal to a gray, and the line height equal to 1. So if we go back, as you can see, that looks pretty nice. Let's continue on. Let's say product section dot content H3. And we want to say font size equal to 20 pixels, the color equal to the variable of -gray, the line height equal to 1, and the font weight equal to 300. Again, if we go back, you'll see that looks pretty nice. Now, we want to add in here the MB-1, which stands for margin bottom 25 pixels. Now if we go back, as you can see, the padding has been added and there's a nice distance between each element, or element we've added margin bottom 1. I'm then going to go into the content. We're going to say product. Actually, do we need to say anything else? I think that actually works. We just want to set the button now. So now this is where stuff gets exciting, because the button, we want to basically make it nice and stylish. So first thing first, let's display it as a block. Let's give it a margin of 25 pixels from the top and auto left and right center it. We're going to set the width equal to 100%, but we're going to set the max width equal to 200 pixels. We're going to set the color equal to a variable of dark, and the border radius equal to 4 pixels. There you go, pretty nice. I'm then going to add in the background, and we're going to set this equal to transparent. We're then going to say outline none, and I'm going to say border 5 pixels solid far -- dark. We then want to say font size 18 pixels. The font family is going to be inherit. We want it to inherit the font because form elements don't naturally inherit the font from the body. You have to either set it or use the inherit attribute or tag, or I don't know, something. So after font family, we want to say text transform, and we'll set it equal to uppercase. So this transforms the wording all from lowercase to uppercase. And I'm going to set the font weight equal to a bold. And there you go. So that's looking alright. Not the best, but it's looking alright. I'm also going to set the cursor to pointer, which means when we hover over, we get this pointer cursor. And I'm going to say transition background 200 milliseconds linear. And this is going to add some nice animation when we actually add it to this button. I'm then going to say, so from the button, I'm going to say dot button hover. So when we hover on this button, I want to add a padding of 5 pixels, a border of none, and a background of linear gradient. I'm going to say to right. We want it to go from the left to the right. I'm going to say far primary, and then far hyphen hyphen primary light. And if we hit save and I hover, as you can see, it adds this gradient from the left to the right. Let's now go button.button content. And we're going to set the background equal to the variable of light. We want it to be a light color. We're going to set the height here equal to 40 pixels. We're going to set the display equal to effects. We want to say justify content center, align items stretch or center, either, or no, probably stretch, and then transition all 200 milliseconds linear. So if we now hover, nothing really happens. We're going to say button hover dot button content. So what this stands for is when we hover on this button element, we want to actually do something to this button content element. And down here, we're just going to say background is equal to a linear, you know what, it's actually the same as this, I believe. So we're just going to paste that in here. Now if we hover, everything seems to be pretty much the same. So if I hide this and hit save and we hover, you'll see only the outline gets triggered, but if now we have the button content, everything in the center gets triggered. Now we want to style the button.button content text hyphen gradient. That's gradient, not gradient. And I want to say the color is equal to the variable dark. We want to say display flex. So I need to move from my chair. I'm going to say justify content center, align items center, and I want to set a transition of all 200 milliseconds and linear. If we go back and we hover, nothing really happens. Now what we want to do is we want to basically say, when we hover on the button again, we want to say button content dot text gradient, and basically we want to do, now this is a cool little trick, we're going to call it linear gradient, and we're going to say to right, we're going to say far hyphen hyphen light to far hyphen hyphen gray. Now if we save this and we hover, you'll see we get this weird background, but I don't want that. I want the text to have a gradient inside of it, and to do that, what we do is we say background hyphen clip, and we're going to clip it to the text element. We then want to say, oh, we also need to add the WebKit prefix to this as well, because it is a requirement. And then we're going to say WebKit text fill color, and we're going to say transparent. Now if we hit save and I hover, you'll see that gradient is now inside of the text element, which looks really cool. And you could do some really cool things in here. So let's say we wanted this to be, let's say, a purple. So we'll say ED008D, which is actually more of a magenta. And this color to be some sort of blue. So we'll say this. Now if we hover, you'll see there's this cool gradient effect going from one side to the other. The background doesn't really help, but you can see what's happening. And that is kind of how that is going to work. And the back, that's how it clips it to the text, using these three elements right there. Okay, I think that is good for that next section. So now if we look at it, that is looking pretty cool. It's very basic. Again, the website is very basic, and maybe I'll do a really complex one in the future, maybe over a few video series or few videos, and maybe I'll make them short because a lot of people want like 20-minute videos, so I will try and aim to do that for a series on just basic HTML and CSS. So let me know if you're interested in the comments below. And while we're halfway through, let's get onto the index.html file, and just underneath this section we're going to create a new section with the class of by section. We're then going to have inside there a div with the class of content, and then inside of there we're going to say h3 dot, or no, actually we're just going to say h3. Inside there we're going to say y by now with a question mark. We're then going to have a p tag, and I wrote out a blurb earlier which I'm going to use, which just says buy your brand new super duper fast car right now because it's super cool. Buy it by clicking the buy now button below. Lorem ipsum dollicet amet consector ade. I'm going to butcher it if I go anymore, but there you go. That is what I wrote. The lorem ipsum I generated. Don't judge me. But the rest of it I wrote. And if I refresh the page, nothing's there. Did I save the element? No, I did not. Don't forget to save. And now you can see when we scroll, this element actually comes above this, and that is what the sticky position is doing in the CSS. So earlier on, I told you we're going to add this position sticky, and what this does is basically says as soon as we get this equal to 0, so this is sticky already, so this is sticky at the element of 0. So now when we scroll, that's going to be stuck there anyway. And then when we scroll this, it's just a normal page coming up, but as soon as it hits this top, it's now stuck there, so it can't scroll anymore too. And you can keep doing this with loads of different sections and just layering them on top of each other, and it would work perfectly fine. And it'll have a cool little like parallaxing sort of effect, which I really like. So let's go back down. Oh, actually, if we finish the markup, we have not. What? It's with me. So in the just underneath the content, no, inside of the content section, we're going to give another button.button class. We're then going to give it another button content and a text gradient, and we'll say buy now. So again, the exact same stuff from above, but below. If that makes sense, probably not. Who cares, really? It makes sense to somebody. So now underneath the button, we're actually going to add the class of product onto a div, and we're going to set the image equal to the car we have above. Images, project car, and I accidentally added 2 slashes. And we're going to say E Trident car. There we go. So let's go back to our page, and there you go. Now here is the broken page. That looks cool, and that looks cool. This looks really good. I really like the style of this. I hope you guys do too. Let's actually fix it up because this makes my face hurt from just looking at it. So up in the main.css, let's go and add the by section. So we're going to say by --section. We're going to say display flex. We're going to say justify content center, align items center. We're going to say flex direction column because we want to go vertically and not horizontally. And we're going to say background is equal to the variable of primary dark. And we're going to set the padding bottom equal to 0 pixels because that's quite high. Now there you go. Now it's looking really good, as you can see. Oh, we're actually missing a header background now. So on the header, we want to set the background equal to the variable of white. Now if I scroll, as you can see, there you go. Very nice. It now adds on. Car looks really cool. So it kind of goes from this like filtered into the actual page to being actually an element on top of this block. So let's start this up. Go to the bottom of our CSS, and where it's got by section, we're going to say by -section.content. We're then going to set it equal to flex1, which is going to grow it, make it as big as it possibly can go. We're going to say width 100%, and we'll say max width equal to 1280 pixels. Maybe I should have put this in a variable because I use this quite often. I actually am. I'm going to get each element and I'm going to say far hyphen hyphen, what should we call it? Content or width. Let's go to the top and let's create that. Hyphen hyphen content or width, and we're going to say 1280 pixels. We go back, nothing should have changed, but let's say we want it actually now to only be 768 pixels, and we save. As you can see, everything now comes into 768 pixels. We're going to put it back to 1280 because that's how most people like their sites, probably a bit bigger, maybe 1366, but it's totally up to you how you do that. I just want to center all my content quite early on the page. So back to the bottom where bisection content is with the max width. We're then going to set a padding of 0 pixels, 15 pixels. We're then going to say bisection.content h3. So we're going to target h3 and we're going to say color variable of light. I'm then going to say the font size of 32 pixels. I'm going to say a font weight of 300, which makes it a light, and we're going to say text align center. So if we go back and we scroll down, as you can see, this title has now been created and it looks pretty good. We're then going to set the paragraph, so let's do that. So underneath the H3, I'm going to say bisection.content paragraph, and in here we're going to say color far light. We're going to say font size of 18 pixels. We'll display this as a block element, and we'll give it a width of 100%, but a max width of 600 pixels if you want the actual paragraph not to span too far. We're going to give it a margin of 25 pixels auto to center it and push it away from the content above. And as you can see, it's looking pretty good. Now, one issue we do have is this button now is a blue button when you hover it on top of a blue background, which isn't really ideal. To be fair, it doesn't look too bad here, but let's be real, in an actual element, it would look pretty bad. And with the white as well, that kind of looks really bad. So we actually want to modify that. So we want to go in here and say bisection dot button, and we want to say the border is equal to 5 pixels solid far hyphen hyphen light. So we don't want it to be dark anymore, we want it to be this white color. We don't want to say bisection dot button hover, and I've missed a space, which does affect how it works. And we're going to say border equal to none, and the background is equal to linear gradient to right, and we're going to say far hyphen hyphen light, far hyphen hyphen gray. So now when we hover it, you can see the background has got the effect on it. So now underneath that, we want to say bisection dot button content. We're going to set the background equal to we're going to set it far hyphen hyphen primary dark. So we want it to be the same color as the background behind itself, so it looks like it's got a hole in it. We're going to say by hyphen hyphen section dot button hyphen content. We'll set background equal to far hyphen hyphen primary. Wait, no, I've just wrote that. I actually want to mean on hover here, so I want to say dot button hover. And we actually want to set this to the linear gradient, which I believe is the same as this one here. So now if we go and hover, you'll see the whole button now fills in. It looks pretty good, except from the text. So let's fix the text. We're going to say bisection dot button on hover. We want to say button content. I want to say text gradient. Or actually, we don't want this one on hover. We want the next one on hover. For this one, we just want to say color is equal to the variable of light. Now if we save, you'll see it now is white initially. And let's copy this, paste this, and on button add the hover effect. And on hover, we want to say the background. You know what, let's actually copy it from above. This one here, we basically want the same stuff, but we want to bring it down here, and we just want to quickly say, instead of light, we're going to say primary, and instead of that, we're going to say secondary. Or no, primary light. Now, I think that is pretty much done. So now when we hover, you can see it's got this cool little effect. It kind of adds a nice effect to the background too, adds like a little glowy effect. Everything's looking pretty good, I think. Although that needs some padding there, don't it? Let's have a look. How can we add some padding? I guess it's just as simple as adding some padding to the top. Where are we? Bisection. Padding bottom 0 pixels. So the padding top should be like 180 or something ridiculous like that, right? But we're gonna say, I don't know, maybe add some. Never like that, was it? Maybe it was. Okay, we're just gonna set some padding here. Padding top is equal to what? 80 pixels. Or instead of 80 pixels, 120 pixels. Oh, okay, I see what's happening. It's not this, it's actually the fact we haven't set up the product image in here. So in here we want to say .by section.product. We want to say display block. Well, I don't know why that's on a div, so it doesn't need it. Width of 100%, a max width of 720 pixels, and a margin of 50 pixels auto. Have a save, and as you can see, it's centered it as best it can, except from the image now needs to be changed up. So we need to copy this and basically say width 100%. Is that 100%? Yeah. Oh, and I don't think that matters. Save. Let's display this as block. Oh, I see what I've done there. That should be image tag. And there you go. Now we've targeted and shrunk it down. Now that's looking pretty good so far. So we've got this simple buy now page where it shows off the actual product. And then we have this buy now page, which if we had content for, you'd probably add, or the why buy now, you'd probably add like a bunch of reasons why, maybe a list with some cool little animations, little icons and everything like that, but I didn't have much time to design, so I quickly threw it together. And that's pretty much it for the CSS. But now let's add the footer in. So I'm actually going to add the footer in inside of this element. So just after this div of content, I'm going to say footer. So I'm going to say footer. I'm going to add a paragraph tag with an and copy, and it's going to say 2019 E Trident. Now let's go style that up really quickly. We want to say, just under here, we're going to say footer height is equal to far header height, color is equal to far hyphen light. Now, as you can see, we've got the little footer down there, which looks pretty nice. I think that looks good. We can leave that at that. Now, the next things we've done, so we've completed a landing page. If we go into mobile response now, so this may be a responsive site, and one of the issues we're going to have is when we get too small, let's say 14 or 3 something, you'll see these product text don't really look good right there. It kind of almost breaks it. If we go any smaller, you'll see it breaks the page. Now we need to fix that, so let's bring this all the way back up, but let's hit this, and this is the mobile responsive view. So here it looks alright, it's doable, but it's not great. So let's go in here, and where we see the product section in the section, so we'll go up and we'll go up to the just under the section here, and we're going to add a media query. And what this media query is going to have in it is a few different things to basically fix up what happens on mobile. So we'll go media only screen and max width 600 pixels. Now a media query basically allows you to add a query such as max width equals 600 pixels, which basically says if something is has a max width equal to 600 pixels, or it hits exactly under 600 pixels, so anything under 600 pixels, it will then apply the styling which is in here to it. So we're going to say header.header inner, and we're going to say flex direction column, because we want it basically the header. So if we save, I saved the wrong thing. If we save that and we come back here, you'll see the product and that have dropped onto a new line, which we want. Doesn't look great right now, but we'll fix it up in a second. So we're going to say flex direction. We're going to set the height equal to auto, because we don't want it to be back up the same size. We want to say align items equal to center. I want to put 50 pixels, and if we go back, there you go. It's starting to look pretty good, except for there's a lot of spacing in between. So let's fix that. Let's say header dot brand title, and we're going to say line height equal to 1 and padding equal to 15 pixels. And then I'm going to say header dot header inner dot nav dot link, and I'm going to say, or pre-link, sorry, or spar link. I'm going to say line height equal to 1 with a padding of 15 pixels. So we can actually minimize our code by putting a comma here and pasting the same thing in, because it's the same 2 lines of code there. Now after the header, we're just going to add a section reset, which is going to say the padding should be 120 pixels by 25 pixels. Now ideally this is what you want, kind of, except from I don't really like how tall the actual brand title is now, kind of. So why is that so tall? It's got a height of 60 pixels, which I assume is added from the spar links. So it's got a line height, which we're setting back to 1. So why are you breaking? Oh, I put a dot in front of that header, that's why. So now if we go back and we refresh, why are you still big? So even though I fixed it, it's still big. We're basically saying color, we're still setting the line height equal to header. Why is that being cut out? Wait, am I doing that right? Amp media screen under 600 pixels, which it is under 600 pixels. Header dot header inner, we should do that for brand title too. Dot brand title, and this one set was this dot brands dot brand title, and then I put a dot between the nav as well. There you go. So now that's a lot better. So everything is now the right size. It's not too big, and it's going to work. It's not going to take up too much room. It takes up enough so it looks good, but not enough so it ruins it. And there you go. And that is how you build a responsive web page. Now we can add in a couple of animations to this. So what we want to do is add some keyframes. So if we go back down to the bottom of our page and we say, bottom of our CSS, and we say at keyframes fade top. And what this is going to say is going to say we're going to go from transform translate y minus 200 negative 200 pixels, and we set opacity equal to 0 to transform translate y 0, and then opacity 1. We're then going to add another one called at keyframes, and this one's just going to be called fade in. So we just want a simple one. We're going to say from opacity 0 to opacity 1. Now let's go add these to the elements we want to add these to, which would be the what do you call them? It would be the image, the product image, and the trident. So I'm going to add it to the content first, so product or the product, sorry. Where are we? Product image. Do we add it to the image or the actual thing? For now we'll do it to the image. So we've got width of 100%. We also want a transform, a translate y equal to -200 pixels. We want it to start at the same as what it does on the animation. And then we're going to say animation name. We're going to say equal to fade top. Animation duration, so this is how long the animation lasts. We're going to say, I'm going to set it equal to 1 second. I'm going to say animation fill mode forward. So this means once the animation is finished, we want to set it so the CSS stays forwards at what it is, so whatever it takes us to, which would be translate 0. Else, once it's finished, it would flick straight back up to the basic way it was. So we're going to say animation timing function, and we're going to say ease in out, and hit save. And if we go back, as you can see, that fades in pretty nicely. It lands pretty safely. That's what you expect from a car, right? And it looks good. Next up, we're going to copy this exact thing and we're going to add it onto content, and we're going to say fade in, and we're just going to add an animation delay, and we're going to set it to 1 second. So now if I hit refresh, oh sorry, we need to set the opacity here too to 0. So this will fade in and then this will come in, and that looks all nice and good. So that is a very basic HTML and CSS landing page. Now, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. A like goes a long way, especially on YouTube. If you enjoyed the content a lot and you'd like to stick around and see some more, hit subscribe, go check out the channel. I've got loads more advanced tutorials and videos all over my channel. You can go have a look. Now, a plug I'd want to quickly plug in is we do have a Discord, community Discord server called The Coding Part, which is pretty awesome. Go check that out. Link will be in the description. You can come join us, get chatting with everyone else. Another thing is, go check out my Twitter at Tyler_Potts_, and on that you can basically see updates from what I'm doing, what I'm working on, and get involved with conversation. Because in the future I'm going to be doing I'm going to do talks about what you guys want, so you guys can ask me questions about development and I'll try and answer them as best I can. Now, finally, all this code will be up on GitHub and you can get it from the repo, with the link will be in the description. Now, the Patreon page I have up is going to be in the description too, and I thank every single patron I have. It's absolutely amazing support and I really appreciate you. You're going to see those people who have been a patron at the end of this video. If you want to become a patron, check the link in the description, go check it out and become a patron and get the benefits that they get. Okay guys, thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy the video, leave a thumbs up. Before I said this, I'm not going to say it again, but thank you for watching and peace out.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets.